One of the most common tactics used by Gacha game characters is to provide 2 different playstyles that can typically access at almost any time. Now this is what I call a form change, and that is when a character's kit changes in a dramatic way. It can be as simple as a buff that makes you play in a different way. It can be as complex as an entirely new moveset. For the purpose of this video, we're going to be purely looking in the gameplay and after you've already set up all the numbers and such. So an example of this would be Hu Chao's elemental skill infusion and a burst that changes your moveset, like Florola's burst. It could also be a nuke that you build stacks for. An example that we're not considering for this video is an off-field skill, buffing an on-fielder to deal on-fielder damage, and using different team comps. Now the reason why games use them is to provide at least that placebo power trip where you actually go from doing no damage to some damage, and they allow a unit to have multiple niches, and they can also put limits on that timers and power, and they would also provide unique gameplay. Some of the shortcomings of it is that some of the base forms don't have a purpose outside of just being weaker, and in some cases they're often just ignored whenever possible. So now the terminology that I'll be using for this video is that the base form is the character as you swap in order their first action that they're going to be doing as they enter the field. And the awakened form is that character typically does afterwards, or the form they change into. And for this analysis, we're going to be looking less at the damage and more of the concept behind. So to start off, we're going to be looking at some good users and bad users and explain why I think they're good and why I think they're bad, hopefully to find out what makes a good form change. The first example of a good form change is going to be Farina in co-op. With co-op, her base form would be her pets, and her awakened form would be the healing one. And her burst can allow her to use both of these forms simultaneously in order to maximize the fanfare stack and provide gameplay where the Farina player is watching her allies' HP. Then once they get under 50%, she can switch her forms to actually heal. And with Hydra just being a good element for co-op in general, it's an example of a good form change idea. So the next form change character is going to be Imeth with her human and mech form. Both of them deal similar damage to each other, but when you're swapping out, if you choose to swap out in your mech form, that provides you an easier time if you're not doing quick swap. But if you decide to swap out staying in your human form, that opens more opportunities for you to quick swap within the standard fusion burst rotation. And this is an example of skill expression, which is another aspect that is really good when you have a form change. Within Imeth's fusion burst team, there's another character that I believe also has a good form change, and that being Chisa. Also, I believe in Chisa supremacy. Chisa's standard form is the scissors used sort of in a normal broadsword way. Her awakened form, she uses her scissors like a chainsaw. And this kit plays very well into the quick swapping aspect of it. What makes this form change good is that the first form plays directly into the second form, and there's multiple ways to actually get there. So if you're more of a casual player, probably just keep Chisa on field and then go through her first just until your gauge fills up, then you'll swap into her second form, use that and then get her buffs and then swap. But if you're more advanced with playing her, you might see that her kit provides openings and exits for animation cancels and quick swapping windows. So even in the same team, there are multiple ways to get out of that base form, and you have options to choose or how you want to get to the second form. And now last up for the form changes, there is Raiden Shogun, and her base form is her elemental skill. She buffs the party builds up her gauge for her burst, and her burst is her awakened form. And I would say that closed gameplay loop of Raiden Shogun buffing her team buffing Raiden Shogun to do her damage, I think that's really good game design. I also like the Raiden National team. That team was the peak of Genshin Impact's combat system. Topic for a different video. So starting off the bad users of the form change, there's Yoimiya, where the idea behind it is similar to Raiden's in that she starts off rotation by using her burst, swaps to her supports, you gain a 20% attack buff, and then swaps back on field to do her elemental skill and then go, haha, normal attacks go brrr. But there are a few problems with this concept. First of all, her buffs to her teammates only buff their attack, and the supports generally aren't made to do damage, and most of the time don't even scale with attack. And so the energy requirement that's required to use her burst competes with the Shibunawa set, which is more often than not her best in slot set. So because of this, the form change doesn't tick right. In order to fix the form change, I would play into this non-snapshotting off fielders. Some aspects I would change, I'd make her burst explosion AoE, but I'd make her burst increase all party members off-field damage, and have every time the burst pops, it increases bonuses attached to popping those, but I'd only have those bonuses be able to pop by the off-field characters. And I'd also refund 15 energy after she uses a burst. I give that like either in constellation or passive or something, just to make the Shilling now set more easier to use, and that you'll always have that guaranteed 15 energy for her to use. In this sort of gameplay, I'd turn her more into a driver role rather than a main DPS role like she currently is in. The next character, I'm digging out the dead horse to kick it again, and that being Dea's Kit. Her base form is her elemental skill, and her awakened form is her burst. Now, the main problem with this is that both aspects of these forms have almost nothing to do with each other at all. For this, there's a real simple fix, and that being is to just make the damage she takes from her skill increase the damage of her ultimate. And that's by far the simplest solution that I can make to fix her form change. But knowing Dea, there's also a bunch of other things I could do to buff her kit, because it really is the bottom of the barrel. The next character who has a bad form change is Yuki, and the base form is the form that I swap in without doing her ult, and her awakened form is her first ult onwards. Now, the thing about this base form is that kind of just doesn't need to be there. Kind of just gets in the way of the gameplay if you want to do the quick swaps. To fix this, I'd make her first ult her intro skill, and in doing this would also allow the solo Yuki players to play with their red ult whenever they solo a boss. So let me check the next character that I'm critiquing. Oh. Yuki's first form just straight up not even need to exist. Like, why doesn't it exist? It just gets in the way of gameplay. I'm trying to... I ult at the end of the rotation, then I forget to do my quick swap rotation, or then I forgot to do the first rotation off again, and then I can't. Then I realized that midway through my quick swap rotation that I haven't finished the first ult, so then I gotta do that, and then my quick swap rotation's all fucked up because the first form doesn't need to be there. When I try to solo a boss, whenever I use my ult, the first form prevents me from learning the kit and skill issue. I know, I'm bitching about it, but even the people that solo Yuki only get through her first ultimate as fast as possible. I don't know why they did this. I'm crashing out. Dear God, crash out over. Apologies for that. Last set of transformations are just the ones that are kind of there. So in Genshin Impact, it's most of the characters that are doing physical. In Wuthering Waves, it's most of the transformation echoes. For those, they're kind of just there. You don't really use them because you'd either just swap out before your character would start doing physical, or you would just not press the echo skill button. If you remove this form, it doesn't really change their game plan very much, and they don't really have a purpose out unless you're doing co-op, but even then that's niche. I get that mainly there to limit the character's power, but still it's kind of just there. Just there so Yada can spend 6 seconds in bed before swapping to Shilling so that she can do more damage. So with those examples in mind, I believe that what makes a good form change is that both forms must serve a purpose, even if it's as simple as the first form building up to the second form. I think also that if you can swap quickly between the two forms, that it provides a form of skill expression. For what makes a form change undesirable is that there's no reason to use it. If you don't have a reason to use it and you're forced to use it, then it just becomes an unskippable cutscene. I believe that some characters in these games would be better if they traded the base form awakened form into just a more balanced base form. I want to thank y'all for watching my video. YouTube Shilling go burr.